Good afternoon, this is the latest video update on Tropical Storm Haikui for the 4th of August 2012. Continue to watch the system as it now nears the island of Okinawa. You can see last location approximately 460 kilometers east-southeast of the island, or it is actually right now just 120 kilometers east of the islands of Daito. These two dots, small dots here in on the satellite image. Maximum sustained winds right now at 75 kph with gusts of up to 110 according to the latest JMA analysis. So the system has slightly intensified in the past 12 hours. It is currently moving quickly to the west at 30 kilometers per hour, and this forward speed is actually what caught us off guard in terms of the timing and forecast track for the system, as you'll see later in the update. But anyway, as you can see on this latest visible image, the system continues to intensify and consolidate. The low-level center is partially exposed. As you can see right now, we still don't have bright clouds on the eastern half of the system, although as you can see, the convection now starting to build up and starting to wrap around the center, with much of it still confined to the west of the system. Right now we have high waves and heavy rain warnings from JMA, basically for the island of Amami and also for Daito Islands, and extending also into Okinawa. As for Kadena Air Base itself, we have right now T-Core 3, which basically means destructive winds of around 50 knots within 48 hours. So residents here are advised to begin cleaning up and tying loose items, basically, as this storm nears the area. Looking at the water vapor imagery, you can see here we have some blue shadings on the eastern side of the system, and that basically means some dry air in the atmosphere trying to wrap around and being entrained into the circulation of Haikui, which is hindering the system from really intensifying to a strong tropical storm. But nevertheless, we are seeing some very strong convective activity, and starting to see also those convective banding now trying to wrap around the northern and eastern part of the circulation, which is also evident here on the latest infrared image. You can also see those bright clouds, basically those strong convective activity, basically confined to the west and southern part of the system. The center still lacking any sort of strong convection, although we are seeing gradual improvement as the system continues to move into favorable regions. Light image also highlights the extent of the clouds now moving into the Japanese islands, and you can see that clearly here, and the latest radar from JMA showing you the bands of rains now moving past Daito and slowly moving and working their way towards Okinawa and the rest of the islands here in the Ryukyu. Some of these bands contain heavy rains with rainfall rates of up to 30 millimeters per hour. Some stations here in Daito are actually already reporting nearly 50 millimeters of rain in the past 12 hours alone. We expect those rains to continue and begin affecting the islands today, later this afternoon, and lasting into the evening hours. Conditions should slowly deteriorate tomorrow, with stormy conditions expected to last throughout the weekend. So some very stormy weather in store for the Japanese islands in the next 2 to 3 days as Haikui moves ever closer there. And accompanying those rains are strong gusty winds, and now we are starting to see increasing northerly winds across Okinawa and also here across Amami. Winds of up to 50 kilometers per hour now being reported here. Lesser for Okinawa and also Daitojima, as the center moves really close to the area. They also reported winds earlier this morning of around 50 kilometers per hour with gusts of up to 70 kilometers per hour. As the system intensifies in the next 24 to 36 hours, expect those winds to continue increasing, especially for Okinawa and the rest of the islands here. As I said, conditions should start to deteriorate this evening and into tomorrow, and those conditions could last throughout the weekend. Now going to the forecast track, you probably notice a pretty significant shift. Yesterday we were talking about the system stalling here in the eastern China Sea and could make a sharp right turn to the north, eventually hitting South Korea or even Japan. Well, right now, computer models and even forecasting agencies have now shifted significantly to the west, with the consensus now taking Haikui towards eastern China, perhaps here across the province of Zhejiang, approximately 250 kilometers south of Shanghai, as early as Tuesday evening. The track has been pretty good so far in terms of agreement across the agencies. However, timing differences do abound, with JMA forecasting a landfall as early as Tuesday evening, while the Joint Typhoon Warning Center is forecasting a landfall to occur by Friday morning. So still some pretty big differences across the timing here, but the general idea holds now that the subtropical ridge is and will be stronger than expected in earlier forecast. We are still seeing some differences among the computer models, however, particularly the GFS model, which still takes Haikui towards Kyushu by the middle part of next week. So we could still see some shifts here and there across the forecast track. As I said, the forecast cone of error is still pretty wide across the parts of this region, basically extending from eastern China all the way to Japan. So residents living here should still continue to monitor the developments of the system. For the effects, Haikui should approach Okinawa tomorrow, with the stormy conditions lasting throughout the weekend. It will slow down as it hits the eastern China Sea. It will intensify to a typhoon probably as early as Monday, and JTWC even expecting a peak intensity of up to Category 2 of around 150 kilometers, I should say, by early next week. And now we move on to the Western Pacific, and I've noticed some questions swirling around the internet in the past 2 days, indicating the massive cloud formation that has formed here in the Western Pacific, and fears of a huge tropical cyclone forming and hitting the Philippines. Right now, indications don't really, latest model guidance don't indicate any cyclone development hitting the Philippines right now. This cloud formation basically is technically known as monsoon trough breakdown via barotropic instability. Very wordy there, but it basically says that the intertropical convergence zone, also known as monsoon trough, is breaking down via some very complex systems in the atmosphere. We do see this phenomena happen periodically across not only in the Western Pacific but also in the Central and Eastern Pacific. When this happens, there could usually form as many as 3 or even 4 tropical cyclones, and right now we already have Haikui pinching off and developing from this monsoon trough basically, and also another potential here just around the Iwato Island, and also another one, tropical depression, already actually forming near Wake Island. So still some pretty interesting times ahead for the Western Pacific, not only for Haikui, but this potential 2 systems forming by early next week. What that means is, of course, for the Philippines, southwest monsoon will be enhanced again, and already we are seeing some increase in convective activity across parts of Luzon as Haikui now starts to interact and enhance the southwest monsoon. Now rains of around 50 millimeters now being reported across central and southern Luzon. Northern Luzon, particularly Baguio City, still feeling some heavy rains, still 100 millimeters of rain being reported today. So still, unfortunately, those rainy conditions will continue for much of Luzon and eventually across eastern Visayas for the next few days as the system continues to roll across the Western Pacific. We are also looking here at tropical depression, the remnants actually of Saola, now moving across southern China. It is now moving across the province of Guangdong, affecting Jiangxi and Hunan provinces, and eventually moving into Guizhou and Guangxi provinces tomorrow. Rains here in this region have been around 50 to 150 millimeters, so still seeing some pretty heavy rains despite the system now dissipating. It has been holding its own though in terms of convection, as you can see in this latest radar from the CMA, still showing bands of heavy rain, the bulk of it pretty much situated across northern Guangdong, some light rains even extending as far south as Hong Kong. As the system continues to move westward, expect those rains to follow, and although the system should dissipate tomorrow, expect the remnants to still bring some light to moderate rains in the region. So far, no reports of deaths across China as of the moment, even there in northern China, as Damri made landfall. So some pretty good news, although we continue to keep monitoring the developments in this region. Finally, a quick shout out to the Atlantic Basin. Not only is the Western Pacific active, but we are also seeing tropical cyclone activity here in the Atlantic Basin. First, we have Tropical Storm Ernesto here in the Eastern Caribbean, and is moving to the west-northwest. Could become a hurricane early next week, and could actually pose a threat across the Yucatan Peninsula, Mexico, and even into the Gulf states there by late next week. So continue to monitor that as well. And we also have a new tropical depression forming well west of Africa near the Cape Verde Islands. And those updates, we have the affiliate 28storms.com giving same video updates as we are, but this time confined mainly and focusing mainly on these two systems here in the Atlantic Basin. That ends our video update for today. Thank you for watching. Again, continue to monitor the developments here, particularly here if you are living in Okinawa, and also here in Kadena, for the latest warnings and developments of Haikui as it approaches the region. Stay safe, guys. Bye.